shiny plastic, black mirror fascist, obsessed capitalist. Are you feeling guilty Catholic? Pretty, picturesque Facebook status, happy family and happy marriage, like the magazine pages, superimposed with Photoshop and happy faces, where cancer doesn't exist and your daddy lives for ages, and the black babies with the swollen bellies are only moments on your telly until you switch it off and put your makeup on. So walk your dog vegan and put your makeup on, posing perfectly pouting and put your makeup on. Hypocrite, selfie, snowflake nation, not making a difference, not voting, not independence, cause it's irrelevant to how your hair grows. You're pretty, and it's a pity that you're prepared to perpetuate your particulars on Instagram and prefer not to educate and overcomplicate an avocado. Like you know the answers to the problems of this world. Meditation and mindful. How about realistically having kids to feed on minimum wage and suicidal without letting your wife know? Cause I don't kill myself for fashion, not a psycho for the sake of it. Hate the name of it and really ashamed of it. I hate your glossy, double tongue, so in circle, talky, trashy magazine. Like Sebastian's dreams, your friends are just old plastic, and it's lonely out there. I don't care about your implants or artificial intelligence, agony ends, chitty chat irrelevance, designer shirt and pants. So keep on spending, goodbye pretty people, it's such an ugly ending. Keep pretending, keep on telling yourself that you're so important, like everyone else, like everyone else, like everyone else. Pretty people, pretty people, pretty people, pretty people. Pretty people, pretty people, pretty people, pretty people. Pretty people, pretty people, pretty people, pretty people. Pretty people, pretty people, pretty people, pretty people, pretty people. Pretty. Fight for your rights, but you die to lose.
Goodbye, pretty people, I'll miss you. All your little giggling and self-serving circles, self-absorbed, all shallow surface, all that fucking money and totally worthless, in entirety distractive. A life without purpose, your embodiment is everything wrong. Emboldened by a Harvey Nicks arrogance, echo chamber, industrial multiplier. Factory line features and adjusted plastic artifice, cosmetically cybernetic immortality activist agents. Away with your moisturizing skin armor nonsense, swigging beard lotion against a Georgian backdrop. One-sleeved tops are a symptom of civilization in decline. Beggars rocking £100 traders with metallic shell toes. Designer baby accessories with perfect lips and a pre-birth sense of what looks fucking fabulous. It's ridiculous, marvelous, purebred, beautiful offspring of the embassy. Laughing at the wannabes that think that greed is power. The hours tick by and all you want is everything endless. You are now living in the culture with a locust consumer. Target population, proof of fashion, housing, online grooming saloons. Pretty predator class, deadly privilege picking flesh from the populace fast. The terrorist victim look is this year's heroin chic. Superior models to snap them pop-up bomb sites. Pop-up prescription antidepressants, propping up debris arranged in artistical splatter patterns. Little ray of ignorant exception at the tipping point. You're dragged to the ground by the teeth of natural selection. We defecate upon your form, thrown upon your back and bleeding in round the scissor man. Snicker, snack. Your entrified empathy, ultimately empty. Dead heart, pretty face, piss upon your memory.
Pretty people, pretty people, pretty people, pretty people. Pretty people, pretty people, pretty people, pretty people, pretty people. Pretty people, pretty.
What is up, everybody? Happy New Year. Hope everybody's doing okay. It seems like everybody pretty much celebrated, with the ball dropping and all that. I'm sure us here in the Southwest and in the West Coast, we still got a little more celebrating to do. But I wanted to start the new year in true crime fashion. So I said, what the hell? I had some news I had put together and a story on Cary Stayner. So let's take a look at some of this news here.
A family whose loved one fell victim to an accused serial killer. That suspect is the man that you see over my shoulder. Perez Reed is charged in 6 killings from here to Kansas City. This afternoon, he appeared in court for the very first time. And News 4's Susan Elcori was there and reports on the newfound mission for those left with heartache.
The hearing held here was short and to the point. Cameras weren't allowed in, but we did talk to family of one of the women Perez Reed is accused of killing, who said they wanted him to see them in court.
We didn't like the fact that he was smirking like, dude, you was on trial for murder.
Leaving court, the family of Pamela Abercrombie reacts to seeing the man accused of killing their cousin for the first time.
The fact that he had a smirk on his face, like, dude, like, you in big trouble.
From jail, Perez Reed appeared over video call in St. Louis Circuit Court. Police say he shot a woman in North St. Louis on September 16th and hours later killed Abercrombie. Then on September 18th, police say Reed killed another man. But in court, Reed told the judge he's not guilty.
You know what you're doing. You was going to come back to St. Louis with the murder weapon, so.
In all, Reed is charged with killing 6 people. Investigators say he's also behind 2 murders in St. Louis County and 2 murders in Kansas City, Kansas. He's still waiting to be arraigned in those cases.
Just keep our family up, lift up prayers, because it's very hard, the holiday season.
Currently, Reed is being held without bond. The judge set a hearing on that for next week. Lawyers for Reed said in court today that he has a long history of mental illness, and they are, quote, only beginning to scratch the surface of that. In St. Louis, Susan Elcori, News 4.
So that was a little bit of an update from one of the shows I did last week. So let's take a look at this.
482 Morning Star Lake Road. It's hard to explain this request.
A gruesome murder in Rutherford County. Sheriff Chris Francis confirms the remains of 2 people were found in Forest City. News 13's Andrew James has been on the scene much of the day and is following the latest developments tonight, along with new reaction from concerned neighbors.
We were out at this scene on Morningstar Lake Road, and most neighbors did not want to go on camera, but say they are very concerned. Rutherford County's sheriff confirms they were called to this scene Monday afternoon about 2 possible deaths. This is 34-year-old Matthew Cooley. He's now charged with murder in the death of 44-year-old Jason Dean Van Dyke. Investigators found his remains at the property on Morningstar Lake Road. The remains of 42-year-old Tracy Renee McKinney were also found there. The sheriff tells me she was reported missing by her family the day after Christmas. We also know that Cooley is charged with 2 counts of dismembering or destroying human remains and 2 counts of failing to notify law enforcement about the deaths. The property where this happened is down a dirt road. We could see numerous no trespassing signs from the main road. I talked to one neighbor who says they see law enforcement at this property multiple times a month, and he says something needs to be done.
They need to clean that up down there, find out what went on and clean it up for good, even if it means the county taking over the land. I ain't got no problem with that. As long as somebody does something, it's getting out of hand.
Now, I did ask the sheriff about the condition of the remains and where exactly they were found. He tells me he can't say at this point because it could hurt the investigation. We do know that autopsies are scheduled for Thursday. Matthew Cooley is in the Rutherford County Jail without bond. The sheriff tells me this is an ongoing investigation. We'll bring you any new developments just as soon as we get them.
Sorry, I was a little taken back by this comment here. Did you hear about that mom who goes on the news crying about her missing daughter? Turns out was selling her at the last time she was accidentally killed. Damn. That's crazy. How many of you know about the Yosemite murders? You guys know anything about that? Cary Stayner? Sorry about the fireworks and the dogs if they start barking. Okay, Mindy. Heather? Yeah, I wasn't too familiar. I was vaguely familiar, but I did some looking into it. It's very interesting. So that's why I wanted to come live tonight. I think it might open up the floor for some discussion, actually. Well, it's a strange story. Apparently his brother was kidnapped. Oh, there's something strange that's going on. I'm going to let the videos do the talking. I don't want to, I really don't know much about it, but it's very interesting. Well, I can't fill you in, but I'm going to let these videos do the talking. Yeah, he's a serial killer. Yosemite. I learned a lot about that. Apparently that means like the place where people kill. I don't know. Like, yeah, it's strange. There's a lot of little tidbits. So hopefully you guys enjoy this information. I found it interesting. I really just trying to pull like real news archived reports. Yeah. Well, this guy's really good looking. So I can see how people would put their guards down. They always picture like monsters as ugly people. But we all know, people in true crime know about Ted Bundy. You know, when you have a psychotic chip on your shoulder, I mean, there's really nothing you can do. Either you get help or you start hurting people. I mean, that's what happens. No, his brother was a victim of a predator. He was kidnapped, from what I understand, and like somehow escaped. I don't know. Let's take a look. I could be wrong. Let's just watch this here. And you guys tell me what you think.
My name is Lena, and I grew up in a small town right outside Yosemite National Park. I had not been back to the Cedar Lodge until last year, and it sent chills up and down my spine. My sister and I met Cary in 1998. My mom was a waitress at the Cedar Lodge where Cary was a maintenance man and lived above the restaurant. We were excited when Cary would come over. He taught us how to dive at the Cedar Lodge. He would buy us a new Beanie Baby almost every time we saw him, because that was pretty big in the 90s.
Oh, hey, Mandy. You're saying there was another family that was killed there this year?
I just remember he would show us how to dive perfectly. My sister and I both wanted to be the best at it. It feels like it was so long ago that you forget that it even happened. Like a dream or a movie that you watched.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And almost doesn't even feel like it was you. I see that Cary's arrested on TV, and I remember being very, very upset, thinking there's no way. I remember crying. Shortly after the FBI came to our house and spoke with my mom privately, they were there to let her know that Cary Stayner had confessed to initially wanting to kill my mom and rape and kill my sister and I. And it didn't happen. It's hard to think about that there were 3 separate times that he had planned to kill us. I still don't believe it. Part of me doesn't believe it. I think that he was going to keep trying. I think that he wasn't going to stop killing, and we were his initial victims, and I don't think he was going to stop.
We spent a lot of our time in summer outside here, a lot of time inside in the restaurant. My mom worked at the bar, and we spent a lot of our time out by the pool, most of the time out by the pool. So we would be swimming out there all day long. There's a little window on the side over here that we would order our drinks from and wait for my mom to get off of work. That's kind of different. The display case that's in there with all the bears on it, that's the same. And that's where all the Beanie Babies were. And so that's like a wave of emotion, I guess.
This is so sad.
After he had been arrested and learning that he was
I couldn't
responsible
imagine
for
that.
the death of Julie and Sylvina and Carol, we had our Beanie Babies, and we actually sent one down the Merced River on a little wicker float to kind of give our piece to everything. It was the Peace Beanie Baby of the Peace Bear we sent down the river. I think it helped my mom. It was her idea and her way of kind of giving peace. I don't think I understood. I didn't believe what was going on. I didn't believe still then that he actually
you're right.
was capable of doing something like that.
He was a nudist.
It's hard for me to think about him being behind bars, and I wonder what it's like for him being there, because he loved to be outside, and I know that he loved Yosemite. I know that he loved being at the river. I know that he loved nature. So that's all taken away from him. And in some way, it's sad. But I also don't forgive him. I can't. But at the same time, it's hard to think that he even did it. I still have a hard time looking at him as a monster. I just remember him being the fun. Every time Cary came, it was fun. Or, or we got new Beanie Babies. It was a good time when he was around. I was excited when he was around.
Man.
Now I don't even know how I'd be able to look at him.
So messed up. That's the part that I don't like. Yeah, Mindy. What I did was I went into a news archive and tried to find as much as I could there. And the other ones are a little bit better. I'll keep going. I have about six in total. I'm glad that you guys know about him, because it's really kind of new to me. I mean, I seen him and I recognize the face because he's got like that movie star look and but the serial killer eyes. I'll never forget that. But yeah, let's keep it going here.
Yosemite, California, one of the most stunningly beautiful places on Earth. In the backdrop to one of the darkest, most horrific family stories of 2 brothers. One who was kidnapped for 7 years, the other who would become a serial killer.
this sanctuary would turn out to be the very setting where Cary Stayner's murderous demons would be unleashed.
It began with a kidnapping. Just weeks before Christmas 1972, 7-year-old Stephen Stayner is kidnapped by convicted child molester Kenneth Parnell.
Kenneth Parnell stops the car and he goes to a payphone. He comes back and tells Stephen, "Your parents, I just spoke to them. They no longer want you."
And Parnell then told him that you're going to be my son. He kept giving him this cough syrup to sedate him.
Stephen Stayner had a new father figure, and it was Kenneth Parnell, who by day was his father and by night was his rapist.
Parnell moves around with Stephen, settling in a small California town about 5 hours north of Stephen's hometown of Merced.
Parnell told him that his name was going to be Dennis Parnell, and he enrolled him in school.
More than 5 years go by, but Dennis Parnell has not forgotten that he's actually Stephen Stayner. Back in Merced, his family has not forgotten him either. His older brother, Cary, deeply affected by Stephen's disappearance.
Cary is very upset. Maybe he had some guilt because I believe he was supposed to have been with his brother.
Cary shows signs of troubling behavior.
It seemed as though he had a compulsion with trying to get close to women or be sexual with them, but he was unable to develop any sort of interpersonal relationships with any women.
After 7 years with Stephen, Parnell starts looking for a new...
I mean, that haircut was a dead giveaway. I mean, that dude looks crazy.
...younger boy. In February 1980, he pays a high school kid to help him kidnap 5-year-old Timothy White.
Stephen watched Timmy suffer through this separation from his family for 2 weeks and decided finally that he had to do something about it.
When Parnell goes to work, Stephen hitchhikes with Timothy to the town of Ukiah, going directly to the police station.
But when he arrives at that police station, he says something that will be embedded in the public consciousness forever.
I know my first name is Stephen.
And that became the title of a book, it became a television movie, and it made Stephen famous.
This is Stephen today. He is holding 5-year-old Timothy White.
Stephen was a national hero. He returns to Merced triumphant.
Good morning, Stephen and Mr. and Mrs. Stayner. And Stephen, how does it feel to be home?
Feels great.
Did you remember your parents well?
They didn't change that much. I recognized them when I got out of the car.
What about your brothers and sisters?
They changed a lot. I never recognized either one of them.
Kenneth Parnell is never tried for sexual assault in Stephen's case and ends up serving only 5 years on kidnapping and false imprisonment charges. After his release, he is caught attempting to solicit a 4-year-old boy. He is given a life sentence and dies in prison in 2008. Stephen goes on to work menial jobs, get married, and have 2 children. But then at age 24, Stephen is killed while riding a motorcycle. His unexpected death, another blow to older brother Cary.
Good.
This rage is starting to bubble up. Cary has a couple of nervous breakdowns. One was fairly violent.
He stated that he felt like jumping in the truck, driving it through the shop, and killing the boss, and killing everybody in the office, and then torching the place. And that's when I told him, you need to go see a doctor, Cary.
Cary is also dreaming about killing women. He enters a mental health facility but doesn't stay. He eventually makes his way to Yosemite, landing a job as a handyman at the Cedar Lodge just south of the park. In February 1999, he sees an opportunity to finally act out his sick fantasy. In one of the furthest hotel rooms at Cedar Lodge are 3 guests, Carol Lund, her 16-year-old daughter Julie, and their friend Silvina Palazzo, visiting from Argentina. Cary knocks on their door. He tells them he's maintenance and needs to fix a leak.
They let me in. I went to the bathroom to check the fan, where I told them the leak probably would be. When I came out of the bathroom, I pulled my gun out, and I told them I wanted the money and the keys to the car.
About a month later, a burned car is found about 60 miles from the Cedar Lodge.
That sounds pretty
Remains of 2
familiar.
bodies were found in the trunk.
I knew from the very beginning that
The ruse.
my girl was there.
How?
I don't know. Don't ask me. Just felt.
Her mother's intuition was sadly correct. It was Sylvina in the trunk of that car. Sylvina along with Carol's son.
Then the big mystery was, where's Julie?
Investigators get a break. A letter in the mail with a crude map showing an area about 40 miles from where the burned car was found.
Earlier this afternoon, investigators discovered the body of a homicide victim.
The body of 15-year-old Julie Sund was identified earlier in the week.
Authorities would take 2 half-brothers with violent backgrounds into custody in connection with the murders of the 3 women.
That's why I'm
They
playing
thought the
this.
right people were in custody,
Okay.
and they certainly wanted
Exactly
to
why I'm
believe the
playing
right
this.
people were in custody, but they weren't the right people.
Cary Stayner was still working here at the lodge. He was still living here on the premises. He was still an active member of the community.
Didn't really see him as a suspect. He didn't raise alarm bells for anybody.
That summer, Cary finds his next victim, 26-year-old Joey Armstrong, a naturalist working at Yosemite, living on the west side of the park.
And I was just over there throwing rocks in the creek, and just after I noticed her walk out again and again, it seemed like she was alone.
I came across this house with water dripping from the...
We're in this vicinity, and he's talking to her.
So I pulled out the gun, I put it to her head. She turned around and freaked out. I told her to go inside.
Authorities soon find Joey's body in a stream near her cabin, decapitated.
This was just as grisly a scene as you could possibly imagine.
Unlike the first 3 murders where he left virtually no evidence, he knew that he had left a very easy trail for investigators.
Someone spotted Cary's distinctive car on the road Joey lived on the day she was murdered. Authorities issue an alert to be on the lookout for him.
Authorities set off a manhunt for him yesterday.
Now, Cary Stayner realizes he has to get out. He packs up and leaves.
He ends up at a nudist colony where he strikes up a conversation with Janet DeMant, who recognizes Cary from news stories.
And I immediately picked up the phone and called FBI and told them that I knew where this person was.
FBI agent Jeff Rynack is dispatched to pick up Cary.
Stayner gets up and puts his hands up.
He looks like a movie actor to me, and he's very soft-spoken and cooperative.
At the FBI office, Cary starts unraveling.
He was talking about some very grisly things, as if he was reading a soup label.
Stayner confesses to Joey's murder, then says he has even more to share.
The Peloso girl couldn't speak very good English, was crying a lot. Julie was very calm.
He describes killing Sylvina Palazzo and Carol and Julie's son months before.
I laid out the blanket. I guess I knew what I was going to do, so I had the knife with me. And I slit her throat.
Tape confession in hand, the FBI asked Cary to take them to where he carried out the murders.
With the recovery of the duct tape and the watch and the knife, which was the murder weapon, now we're talking evidence.
Cary Stayner was found guilty and sentenced to death.
As far as I know, he's never talked to anyone about the effect Stephen might have had on his crimes. I'm not sure there is any direct cause and effect. Stephen could have grown up normal, happy, and healthy, and Cary still would have been a serial killer.
Now 57, Cary Stayner will spend the rest of his life on California's death row.
He's a monster, all right, but he seems like he has some demons. You know, people don't just wake up in the morning and say, hey, I'm going to go kill a bunch of people. You know, they're either mad, you know, they do it out of passion, out of anger, out of jealousy, psychosis. You might black out. But you don't just wake up and say, today I'm going to kill my neighbor. You know, it just doesn't happen. So most times, the same thing that causes people to kill is the same thing that gets them caught. It's like a weakness. It's like something hanging. You know, you're trying to, it's not like a bad dream when you're trying to run, but you can't. You're like in slow motion. That's probably how they live their lives day to day. Like with this devil on their back.
For the past 2 years, Cary Stayner rented a room above the Cedar Lodge restaurant. He worked next door at the motel as a handyman, and it was at Cedar Lodge that local teens got to know him.
We were sitting there swimming. He walked in to do his job around the pool, do some handyman work, and Aaron hollered at him, told him to come over and meet us, and every day after that, pretty much that we were over there, we'd see him and talk to him for about 5 minutes.
Parker Bevington and Aaron Ludwig both work at the Chevron just down the road from Cedar Lodge. Both young men are stunned. The man they were friendly with has apparently confessed to last week's killing. They insist he couldn't have seemed more normal.
I've never even seen the man violent at all. He's never even really raised his voice, even when we're just sitting there talking.
He always made us feel pretty much like we had nothing to worry about. Never made us feel uncomfortable.
Stayner would visit the nearby Merced River for relaxation, seeking spots to sunbathe in the nude.
Thanks, Kelly.
People enjoying the river today are shocked as well.
Pretty disappointing because this was my little paradise away from the city.
So I think I got a couple more. What was that? 3? Okay. So I try to upload the best ones, the ones that I thought were applicable.
Since their daughter, granddaughter, and family friend disappeared right after Valentine's Day, Francis and Carol Carrington have learned to wait.
They're beautiful girls.
That's the part that caught my attention. And that's why the Valentine's Day, it seemed kind of strange. Like we got the same type of personality, and then, you know, Valentine's Day is like, it's a day of, to me, it reminds me of a male or a loved one's. It reminds me of a relationship, you know, somebody that's like a non-family person, somebody that you have a sexual interest in. You know what I mean? So I could see somebody who has a hatred for women targeting that date. So that's the first thing that stuck out to me. And that's why I started collecting all these videos and looking further into it.
Ever since their daughter, granddaughter, and family friend disappeared right after Valentine's Day, Francis and Carol Carrington have learned to wait.
They're beautiful girls that were just on the verge of growing up.
Days stretched into weeks. The families kept a hopeful vigil. Sylvina's parents flew in from Argentina. By the middle of March, the worst possible news. The bodies of Carol and Sylvina were found in the trunk of their burned-out rental car, dumped near Sonora.
She wouldn't hurt anything or anybody, not even with words.
Investigators found Julie's body a week later near Lake Don Pedro. The Carringtons tried to fill the hole in their hearts, starting their own reward fund to help other families. And they quietly waited for a break in the case.
Yes, it brings some closure, no question about it.
A representative of the Carrington Reward Fund actually contacted the family of Joey Armstrong after learning of her disappearance and murder. The Carringtons wanted to help, never realizing their losses would lead to the same suspect.
We've been through it a lot longer than they have, and maybe we can offer them some support. We'll sure try.
With a motel maintenance worker now the prime suspect, the Carringtons know the waiting isn't quite over.
We hope this is brought to a just end. This is all that we can ask for.
Sharon Ito, News 10.
Man, I'm telling you, if they would have caught this guy, Like he would have never stopped, ever. There's something crazy with the connection with his brother and all that crazy stuff. We're missing something.
Story, especially for those who remember the details. Now, 2020 uncovers new material that includes a never-before broadcast audio of Cary Stayner's confession. I spoke with ABC News anchor Amy Robach, who hosts tonight's special, earlier today.
Cary Stayner made headlines in 1999 after he terrorized Yosemite National Park, murdering tourists Carol Sund, her daughter Julie Sund, and friend Silvina Peloso, along with park nationalist Joey Armstrong.
By the middle of March, the worst possible news.
The Yosemite Park naturalist was found decapitated.
Yosemite actually means the people who kill.
Titled Evil in Eden, 2020 revisits one of the biggest newsmaker stories in recent history through a modern lens in Friday's 2-hour special, including many exclusive interviews and news footage taken from the Action News archives.
It was just one of those stories where you couldn't believe the horrific acts that were happening in one of the most beautiful places on this planet.
America got to know Stephen Stayner because of his tragic life.
2020 also tells a story about Cary's younger brother, Stephen, who was kidnapped in Merced as a child and escaped after 7 years in captivity, and how Stephen's disappearance may have impacted Cary's behavior.
This was, to me, the part of the most fascinating aspect of this story is did what happened to his family, starting back in 1972, ultimately lead to these horrific acts in 1999.
You have Stephen purely victimized, innocent.
I recognize my father and my mother, but my sisters and brother, I didn't.
You have, on the other hand, you have Cary Stayner, who was evil incarnate.
Cary committed the gruesome acts of violence over a 6-month period while working as a handyman at Yosemite Cedar Lodge. When he was eventually brought in for questioning, Cary confessed in detail about how he killed his victims.
I took her to the bathroom, put her in the bathtub. Strangled her.
Can you imagine a 15-year-old, how terrified she must have been?
A look at Cary Stayner shows an aging man over the years. He was sentenced to death and is currently on death row at San Quentin State Prison.
Even if you knew the story or you've never heard of the story, you're going to learn something that you never knew before, and you won't be able to turn away.
What do you guys think about this guy so far? He almost seems like he has something that he can't control. Yeah, that could be true. All right, well, let's play this last one, and then we'll just kind of hang out for a little bit. I don't want to stay too long. I just wasn't really too busy right now, and I figured if there was, people out there that weren't really doing anything for New Year's, hey, come on, check out the show. So let's take a quick look, finish her up.
My name is Lena, and I grew up in a small town right outside Yosemite National Park. I had not been back to the Cedar Lodge until last year, and it sent chills up and down my spine.
I don't know.
My sister and I met Cary in 1998.
I've been getting super chats.
My mom was a waitress at the
on my
Cedar
last
Lodge,
one.
where Cary was a
Got like
maintenance
3.
man and lived above the restaurant. We were
Pretty
excited
cool.
when Cary would
Thank you
come
guys.
over. He taught us how to dive at the Cedar Lodge. He would buy us a new Beanie Baby almost every time we saw him, because that was pretty big in the 90s.
Happy New Year, and
I just remember he would show us how to dive perfectly. My sister and I both wanted to be the best at it. It feels like it was so long ago that you forget that it even happened. Like a dream or a movie that you
documents.
watched.
Yeah, don't be giving no documents.
And it almost doesn't even feel like it was you. I see that Cary's arrested on TV, and I remember being very, very upset, thinking there's no way. I remember crying. Shortly after the FBI came to our house and spoke with my mom privately, they were there to let her know that Cary Stayner had confessed to initially wanting to kill my mom and rape and kill my sister and I. And it didn't happen. It's hard to think about that there were 3 separate times that he
We can
had
talk about
planned
that.
to kill us. I still don't believe it. Part of me doesn't believe it. I think that he was going to keep trying. I think that he wasn't going to stop killing, and we were his
I haven't
initial
set up my
victims, and I
membership
don't
yet.
think he was going to stop.
I'm still looking into it. I want to make sure I
We
set it
spent
up
a lot of our
properly.
time in summer
Make it
outside
really
here,
cool,
a lot of time
like some
inside in the
top
restaurant. My
secret
mom
shit.
worked at the bar,
I
and
got
we
a lot of
spent
stuff
a lot
that
of
I
our
don't share.
time out by the pool. Most of the time out by the pool. So we would be swimming out there all day long. There's a little window on the side over here that we would order our drinks from and wait for my mom to get off of work.
Give me a couple
That's
weeks on
kinda
that
different.
for a sec.
The display case that's in there with all the bears on it, that's the same. And that's where all the Beanie Babies were. And so that's like a wave of emotion, I guess.
After he had been arrested and learning that he was responsible
know.
for the death of Julie and Sylvina and Carol, we
Okay, the first time I did it, I know that I had to put a card like on file. It was almost like on file with Google or something. I don't know. And then from that point on, anytime I want to do a super chat, like whenever I do one for Graz or Bruiser or whoever, like whatever I'm watching, and then I send a super chat from after I go through that process, then it's like a click of a button moving forward. Maybe they might need you to like verify the last 3 on the back of your card, actually. So I lied. Ooh, that was a good one.
had our Beanie Babies, and we actually sent one down the Merced River on a little wicker float to kind of give our
we
piece
saw this
to
part.
everything. It was the Peace Beanie Baby, the Peace Bear we sent down the river. I think it helped my mom. It was her idea and her way of kind of giving peace. I don't think I understood. I didn't believe what was going on. I didn't believe still then that he actually could be capable of doing something like that. It's hard for me to think about him being behind bars, and I wonder what it's
Yeah,
like
you don't have to do any of that.
for him being there, because he loved to be outside, and I know that he loved Yosemite. I know that he loved being at the river. I know that he loved nature. So that's all taken away from him. And in some way, it's sad. But I also don't forgive him. I can't. But at the same time, it's hard to think that he even did it. I still have a hard time looking at him as a monster. I just remember him being the fun. Every time Cary came, it was fun. Or, where we got new Beanie Babies. It was a good time when he was around. I was excited when he was around. Now I don't even know how I'd be able to look at him.
Damn, that's messed up. That kind of breaks my heart. It just makes you not want to trust people. You kind of think back on all the people that have been really nice to you in your life. You know, maybe nice isn't normal. Maybe you got to be a little bit nice and then, you know, at least a dick sometimes. But if there's any question about all the news that's been kind of going on, let me know. I really only wanted this to be like a little hour show. Actually, I'm probably going to get out of here in about 10 minutes because where I'm at, it's about to be New Year's, like for real. And if I don't go give the wife a kiss, I'm going to be in trouble. There's no kids in the house, so you know what that means. Yeah, she was like strong, but you can still hear like she couldn't hide it. She was so sad. Like I would hate for something like that to happen to me because I just really don't know what I would lose. I don't know if I could handle it. Like I put tragedy and stuff like I block it. Like it's just something that's going to happen to all of us, you know, eventually. So try to put it out of my mind. Hey man, stickers are really just for you for like your comments. Like if you got something you really want to say, you know, it just kind of highlights it. Like that stuff don't matter to me. You know, like me, I'm the kind of guy where I send I do super chats and stuff like that when I'm watching other people, but I don't do it like all the time. But the truth is some people, they have like really good shows and they might have a really good topic. And then I mean, like I pay for all this Hulu. You know, I pay for Hulu, I pay for Prime, I pay for Netflix, I pay for Showtime, HBO, Disney. Like I'm paying all this money for all this stuff. But there's some YouTubers that I would pay for. Like Roz. Like I'm a member over at Roz. Sorry, I got something in my throat. Let me mute this real quick. I'm trying to get this out of here. I think I got it. Desensitized. But sometimes you can't help it. What was it that I was watching? Was it Cindy Cruz? It might have been the Cindy Cruz case. Like her mom, she's kind of I guess uneducated. I'm not sure what the word is. She just seems like she doesn't seem like she's super smart really. She's kind of maybe lower on the IQ scale. So she was in court and she was addressing the killer of her daughter. And when she started talking, like, you know, the little brat in me kind of wanted to chuckle because she sounded funny. You know, she had a speech impediment. And then quickly, I don't know if it was the combination between me wanting to make fun of her and then instantly the words that she was saying were so powerful I was in my office and I was putting a video together to go live later on. I just started bawling. It was, and I don't cry. Like, I'm not a crier. Like, I'm really not. I've probably only cried maybe 5 times in my life, and that was one of them. Something about the utter pain and the passion, but I think it had to have been a mixture of me wanting to make fun of her and then quickly realizing how much of a dick I was, and then realizing like how passionate and how important the things that she was saying were. Could have been a combination, but I mean, I walked in the living room. My wife was like, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, "Oh, nothing. Just allergies. You got something in my eye." But I mean, it was really messed up. It was really powerful. She was talking about how he stole her life and her future, and she was like explaining like her daughter's personality, and man, it was bad. Yeah, that's about what I pay for all the shit I got. I pay for Showtime, Cinemax, and all those are like 10, 20, 14, this, that. They add up. That shit adds up. Especially Hulu. That shit's like $80. You guys got that shit? It's worth it, but man, because I gotta have my first 48. That's my true crime addiction right there. Just watching those investigators like catch these fucking guys, man. I love it. I just study it. I study everything they do. They're really good. And it's funny because sometimes they just hop on Facebook and act like we do. It's kind of funny. They're just kind of going through the friends section, like, what are they wearing? Looking for clues and shit. So, I mean, don't ever let anybody tell you that that's the wrong way to do it, because that's what they do. She doesn't really watch my channel. She's a busybody. Like, she's putting together a bunch of merch for me and stuff. Like, we're a good team together. Like, she sees something that I'm passionate about, and then instead of like criticizing me and telling me like, "Oh, what's wrong with you? Like, you're obsessed with this case, this Delphi case. Like, what are you doing?" Instead, she's just like, "Hey, well, if you're passionate about it, let me build off of it or whatever." Yeah, my brother's kind of like a comedian, and he's a miserable guy. I don't know why. He doesn't have anything to be miserable about, but he's always in like a miserable relationship, and he's struggling, and he's just always pissed off. But he's really funny. Like, if you just hang out with him and talk with him, he's like, he'll tell you some funny shit. For sure. Happy New Year. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get out of here. About 10 minutes. We're gonna be enjoying New Year's, so if you guys have any last questions or anything you want to say, let me know. Get ready to jump out of here. Yeah, I think all I watch is Hulu right now. They got Always Sunny. They got American Dad. Of course, First 48. They got all the paranormal stuff I like. The UFO stuff. Yeah, I was the one that broke that. I put it on my Facebook group. I'm glad you're talking about it. For sure, Divvy. I have a good feeling about 2022. Just something about it, you know? I have a really good feeling. We're going to stop letting people push us around, you know? Yeah, Hulu has everything. It has like all like 30 seasons. You want some true crime content? Yeah, go check that out. First 48, man. There's some gruesome stuff there. That and also they have they're replaying all the cold case files, like even the old episodes, which are really good. And then unsolved mysteries. Right, there's a lot of good content there. Heck yeah, they're all good too. I think I'm getting ready to start a Alfred Hitchcock kick because I think I'm going to do a new intro to my videos for 2022 with Alfred Hitchcock. But instead it'll be Sleuth. I don't know, I thought it'd be funny. All right, guys. Probably one more minute if there's anything. Any last minute requests or anything, I'm going to jump out of here. I got to go give the wife a big smooch. That's funny. Sleuth Hitchcock. That's a good one. I should do a series called that. Do like a bunch of old school stories. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to head out of here. Merry Christmas. Remember, 2022 is going to be our year. Peace out, guys.